Every story has a beginning, but some beginnings are less about a fresh start and more about the desperate hope of an ending. For Anya Petrova, that ending was invisibility. It was a silent promise whispered to herself every time the family car pulled up to yet another new school in yet another anonymous town. This time, it was Willow Creek High. The air in Willow Creek had that crisp, almost painfully bright scent of autumn, like apples and dry leaves, a picture-perfect suburban dream. You know the kind of place, right? Little white picket fences, perfectly manicured lawns, and the kind of high school where everything seems to hum with an effortless, sunlit energy. But for Anya, that hum felt less like a welcome and more like a high-pitched drone buzzing against the quiet storm inside her. Her senses, honed by years of discipline, were on high alert. The vibrant chatter of hundreds of teenagers, the rhythmic clatter of locker doors, the distant thud of a basketball, it all felt overwhelming. A cacophony against the carefully constructed silence she carried. She moved through the crowded hallways like a ghost, her backpack a shield, her gaze fixed just beyond everyone else, desperate to blend, to be forgotten, to be just Anya, the new kid, not Anya, the other Anya. Because the truth was, Anya wasn't just running to Willow Creek, she was running from Autumn Falls, from the whispers, from the stares, from the chilling echo of the Autumn Falls incident. It had been a lifetime ago, or maybe just a few months, the lines blurred in the fog of her memory. It was a martial arts competition, under bright, unforgiving lights, a final match. Her opponent, Leo, had pushed too hard, too carelessly, and Anya, fueled by instinct, by years of rigorous training, had reacted. She'd misjudged, just by a fraction. A misplaced block, a fraction too much leverage, and Leo went down, hard. The sickening thud, the sudden, agonizing cry, the paramedics, the frantic whispers, the crushing silence of the arena as Leo was carried off the mat, his limb at an unnatural angle. It wasn't malice, it wasn't anger, and it was just a terrible, agonizing mistake, a power unleashed, uncontrolled, leaving lasting damage. From that day on, a silent vow had taken root in Anya's soul. Never again. Never again would she use her skills, her strength, in a way that could bring such pain. Every morning, she'd go through her precise breathing exercises, the slow, deliberate movements of forms she knew by heart, not to hone her technique, but to suppress it. To keep the beast, the finely tuned reflexes, the instinct for combat locked away. It was an exhausting, daily battle waged entirely within herself. She was terrified of becoming that person again, the one who could inflict such harm even unintentionally. It wasn't just about protecting others, it was about protecting her own fractured peace. She just wanted to finish high school, get her diploma, and disappear into the background noise of the world. And some people don't just let you disappear. Enter Veronica Ronnie Cross, the queen of Willow Creek High. She wasn't just popular, she was magnetic. Perfect hair, designer clothes, a smile that could charm angels or freeze them where they stood. She moved through the school like she owned it, her laughter a signal, her casual glance a judgment. Ronnie didn't need to shout to exert her will. Her power was in the subtle nod, the carefully placed word, the way her inner circle, Chloe, the sharp-tongued social architect, and Ethan, her older cousin, a hulking presence who silently reinforced her unspoken commands, orbited her like loyal satellites. Her kingdom was built on influence, whispers, and the fear of social exile. For the first time, Ronnie's gaze landed on Anya. It wasn't casual. Anya felt it, a prickle on the back of her neck. Ronnie's eyes, sharp and assessing, lingered for just a moment too long. Anya, following her usual strategy, simply looked away, trying to become part of the wall. She believed, as many vulnerable people often do, that by making herself small, by disappearing, she could avoid becoming a target. It's a common trap, isn't it? You try to make yourself invisible at a party to avoid being noticed, only to become the only one standing awkwardly alone, an easy target for anyone looking for one. Anya believed if she just kept her head down, Nate would move on. But that stillness, that quiet defiance, that refusal to engage in the usual social games only intrigued Ronnie. It marked Anya as an anomaly, a challenge to Ronnie's absolute control over the school's social ecosystem. A subtle smirk played on Ronnie's lips. A few days later, Anya found a small, almost imperceptible smudge on her locker, right where she always put her hand. Then, a whispered comment in the hall. "Oh, look, the new girl actually knows how to dress herself." Nothing overt, nothing anyone else would even notice, but Anya noticed. Every single test, every single subtle jab. Her hope for peace, for invisibility, was slowly, inexorably dimming. The shadow from Autumn Falls was beginning to lengthen, not behind her, but right here in the supposedly idyllic halls of Willow Creek High. Anya could feel the hum turning into a buzz, growing louder, more insistent. She knew deep down that the quiet life she craved was about to be shattered. The chess game had begun, and Anya, despite her vow, was already on the board. The air in Willow Creek High, once just crisp with autumn, now felt thin, almost brittle around Anya. Ronnie Cross, true to form, wasn't one for direct confrontations, not at first. Her method was far more insidious, a slow, methodical poisoning of Anya's existence. It began with whispers, like tendrils of smoke curling through the hallways. "Have you heard about the new girl? Bit of a loner, isn't she? Someone said she got kicked out of her last school for something." These weren't shouts. They were barely audible murmurs, carried just loud enough for Anya to catch, just vague enough to be impossible to trace. Ronnie's inner circle, Chloe and Ethan, were her perfectly tuned instruments. Chloe, with her innocent eyes and venomous whispers, was the master of social engineering. Anya would find herself subtly excluded from group projects, her name accidentally left off sign-up sheets, her usual lunch spot suddenly taken by Ronnie's smiling, impenetrable wall of friends. Ethan, a hulking shadow, didn't need to speak. His mere presence, a quiet threat lurking near Anya's locker, was enough to make others give her a wide berth. You know that feeling, don't you? When everyone suddenly avoids your gaze, when the polite smiles turn cold. That's the chilling effect of social isolation, a weapon as sharp as any blade. Then came the digital venom. Anonymous social media accounts popping up, subtle polls like, "Who's the most awkward new kid at Willow Creek?" with Anya's photo just one of the options. A distorted screenshot of an old photo, subtly cropped to make her look like she was in a compromising situation. Nothing direct, nothing provable. Just enough to sow doubt, to make even the curious look away. It's the modern-day version of chalking a target on someone's back, visible only to those looking for a reason to judge. For Anya, every day was a siege. Her internal battle to maintain her vow intensified with every passing hour. The Autumn Falls incident wasn't just a memory now. It was a constant, haunting echo. A slammed locker would send a jolt through her, making her relive the sickening thud of Leo hitting the mat. A sudden shove in the crowded hallway, however innocent, would bring back the desperate urge to react, to use the lightning-fast reflexes that were now her curse. She'd find herself performing her breathing exercises in bathroom stalls, counting each inhale, each exhale, trying to anchor herself, to keep the finely tuned instincts locked away. It took immense energy, leaving her drained, perpetually exhausted, yet unable to truly rest. She clung to a dangerous rationalization, a common trap for those targeted. If I just ignore it, it'll stop. Fighting back only makes it worse. This self-talk, while seemingly logical, was a slow poison. It convinced her that her silence was strength, when in reality it was being interpreted as weakness. Every non-reaction, every lowered gaze, every swallowed insult fueled Ronnie's conviction. Ronnie saw Anya's passivity not as control, but as confirmation of her own absolute power, an open invitation to push harder. This is a crucial lesson, isn't it? Silence doesn't always equal peace. Sometimes it invites more aggression. Many of us have made that mistake, believing that if we just take it, the torment will end. But for a predator, it's a green light. And what about the others? The silent majority. The students who filled the hallways, their faces a mix of nervous glances and feigned ignorance. They saw it, of course. They always do. The quiet snubs, the dismissive whispers, the way Anya was slowly becoming an untouchable. Their silence wasn't malice. It was a fear that fed the bully's power. Fear of becoming the next target. Fear of social repercussion, a quiet complicity that amplified Ronnie's reach. They were the invisible audience, making Anya's isolation even more profound. The pressure mounted, tightening its invisible grip around Anya. Ronnie, sensing Anya's internal struggle, decided it was time for the grand finale. It wasn't enough to isolate. She had to break. It happened during the school's annual fall talent show, a packed auditorium, parents and students buzzing with excitement. Ronnie, through careful manipulation of the stage crew, arranged for Anya's meticulously crafted science project, a delicate, intricate model of a molecular structure to be wheeled out prematurely. As Anya was called to the stage, the spotlight hitting her, Ronnie stepped forward, a sympathetic look plastered on her face. "Oh, Anya! I'm so sorry, there must have been a mix-up," she cooed. "But what is this? It looks like it's already falling apart," and with a calculated, seemingly accidental brush of her hand, the delicate model toppled, shattering into 1,000 pieces on the stage. The collective gasp from the audience, the instant flash of phone cameras, the mocking laughter from Ronnie's clique. It was a calculated public humiliation designed for maximum impact. Anya stood frozen, the heat of the spotlight burning her skin, the shattered pieces of her work mirroring the fragments of her composure. The walk home felt endless. Each step was a lead weight, each breath a struggle. The humiliation burned hotter than any physical injury she had ever sustained. The dam, so carefully constructed within her, was now cracked, the controlled emotions threatening to spill out. She saw the concerned, quiet glances from her father, Sergei Petrova, when she finally pushed through the door. He didn't need words. He saw the pain in her eyes, the slumped shoulders, the unnatural quiet that screamed louder than any shout. His gaze, knowing and full of a quiet concern, lingered. He knew, instinctively, that the conversation they both had avoided for so long was finally, inevitably, here. The silence in the Petrova kitchen that evening was heavy, thicker than the autumn air outside. Anya sat across from her father, Sergei, the shattered remnants of her science project still vivid in her mind. She tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat, choked by years of unspoken fear and shame. Sergei didn't press. He simply waited, his presence a quiet, unwavering anchor in the storm raging inside her. Then the dam broke. It wasn't a confession so much as a torrent. The autumn falls incident poured out of her, raw and unfiltered. She spoke of the searing pain of causing harm, the constant tremor in her hands, the nightmares. She recounted the whispers, the isolation, the relentless, insidious torment from Ronnie. Tears streamed down her face, a mix of humiliation, anger, and the sheer exhaustion of holding it all in for so long. She felt small, broken, exposed. I tried to be invisible, Papa," she choked out. "I tried to just disappear, but it only made it worse. I just wanted it to stop. I don't want to hurt anyone again, but I don't know what to do." Sergei listened, his gaze unwavering, his hand reaching across the table to gently take hers. His grip was firm, reassuring. He was a man of quiet strength, a master of internal arts, a title he rarely used, preferring combat trainer. But his teaching went far beyond physical prowess. He understood the profound connection between the body, mind, and spirit, the intricate dance of control and power. "Anya," he began, his voice a low, steady rumble. "I understand more than you know. I once thought strength was about breaking bones, about brute force." His eyes clouded for a moment, a flicker of an old regret. "I made mistakes too, used my strength without wisdom, without control, and the regret of that, it stays with you. It stays with me even now. But true strength, Anya," he said, squeezing her hand, "is about mending. Mending broken spirits, even your own. And sometimes, mending means stopping the hand that causes the breaking." He continued, his words flowing like a calm river, washing over Anya's turmoil. "Martial arts isn't about striking first. It's about striking last to end the violence. It's not about hurting, it's about stopping harm. Your vow, your promise not to hurt, it's a noble one. But sometimes, Anya, inaction is a deeper wound. Allowing someone to continue to harm you, to break your spirit, to diminish who you are, that is also a kind of violence, and you have the power to stop it." He helped to reframe the Autumn Falls incident, not as an act of malice, but a tragic misjudgment of force in a high-stakes moment. "Leo pushed you, Anya. You reacted. Your precision was there, your power was there, but the control over the outcome was lost in the moment. That's a lesson, not a curse. Your strength is a gift, not a burden, but like any gift, it demands profound responsibility and control. It's about compassionate force, enough to neutralize, to disarm, to create distance, but never more than necessary, never to destroy, but to defend." As Sergei spoke, Anya felt a profound shift within her. The suffocating weight began to lift. The guilt, a constant companion, loosened its grip. Her father wasn't condemning her past, he was showing her how to carry it, how to learn from it, how to use it. She saw her strength not as a weapon to be feared, but as a tool for peace. The terror of losing control began to recede, replaced by a quiet, unwavering resolve. She realized she didn't have to be a ghost anymore. She could be present, she could be strong, and she could be at peace. Her father looked at her, his eyes warm. "You don't start the fight, Anya, but you have to be the one to end it, for yourself, for your peace." In that moment, Anya made a choice, not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of a fierce, calm clarity. She would not seek to hurt Ronnie, but she would end this. She would protect her spirit, stand for her truth, and demonstrate what true strength looked like. The seed of resolution planted long ago had finally blossomed into a fierce, unwavering determination. She was ready. The air at Willow Creek High, which had once felt thick with Anya's fear, now crackled with a different kind of tension. Whispers about Ronnie Cross's cruelty, once hushed and fearful, had grown bolder since the talent show debacle. A few students, emboldened by Anya's stoic silence in the face of such public humiliation, started exchanging uneasy glances whenever Ronnie passed. Her queenly authority, once absolute, now had a faint tremor, a barely perceptible crack in its polished veneer. Ronnie, sensing this subtle shift, knew she had to act. She had to reassert her dominance, and she had to do it spectacularly. Her challenge wasn't just a note on a locker this time. Oh no. Ronnie was a master of grand gestures. It started subtly, as always, with a series of anonymous polls popping up on the school's unofficial student forum. Who's truly the strongest at Willow Creek? Followed by, who will stand up to the bullies? Each subtly hinting at Anya. Then came the viral video. posted from an untraceable account, a shaky zoomed-in clip of Anya during the talent show, followed by a voiceover eerily similar to Ronnie's, mocking Anya's fragile project and calling her a coward. The comments section exploded, half in outrage, half in morbid curiosity. The next morning, the school intercom crackled to life, not for announcements, but for Ronnie's voice, amplified and distorted, echoing through every classroom, every hallway. "Attention, Willow Creek. There seems to be a misunderstanding about who runs things here, so to clear the air, I'm issuing a formal invitation. Anya Petrova, meet me and my crew at the old mill grounds after school today. Be there or be branded a coward forever." A dramatic pause. Let's see what happens when the new girl actually shows up. The mic clicked off, leaving behind a stunned silence that quickly erupted into a frantic buzz. Chaos. Pure, unadulterated chaos. Students spilled into the hallways, phones out, buzzing with the news. Everyone was talking about it. The old mill grounds was notorious. An abandoned, crumbling structure on the edge of town, where unspoken challenges were often settled, away from the prying eyes of faculty. It was the ultimate stage for a confrontation, and Ronnie had just lit the fuse. Through it all, Anya moved with an uncharacteristic poise. Her face was calm, her eyes clear, almost serene. This wasn't feigned bravado. It was a deep, unwavering calm, a direct result of the hours spent absorbing her father's wisdom. She heard the whispers, felt the stares, saw the mixture of fear and wild curiosity in her classmates' eyes. They expected her to crumble, to run, to plead, but Anya just walked right into the cafeteria where 100 eyes immediately swiveled to her. Ronnie was there, of course, at her usual table, surrounded by Chloe and Ethan, a triumphant smirk already playing on her lips. She met Anya's gaze, her eyes cold, expecting a flinch, a breakdown. And then, Anna, quote, did the unexpected. She walked straight to Ronnie's table. The cafeteria, usually a cacophony of chatter, fell into an unnatural pin-drop silence. Every single student held their breath, phones ready to capture the inevitable public humiliation. Anya stood before Ronnie, her posture straight, her shoulders relaxed, her gaze steady. "You want me there?" Anya's voice cut through the silence, clear and calm, no tremor, no fear. At the old mill grounds. Ronnie's triumphant smirk faltered for a fraction of a second, replaced by a flicker of surprise. She hadn't expected Anya to address her directly, let alone with such composure. "Yes," Ronnie drawled, recovering quickly, her voice dripping with condescension. "Unless the brave little new girl is too scared." Anya held her gaze, a profound stillness radiating from her, and then, with a simple, quiet certainty that reverberated through the silent room, she said, "I'll be there." The collective gasp was almost deafening. It wasn't a shout of defiance, not a roar of aggression. It was a calm, resolute statement, a single, quiet yes that hit Ronnie like a physical blow. Her eyes widened, a genuine shock momentarily erasing her smug facade. She'd expected a cry, a retreat, a dramatic collapse. Not this. Not this unnerving, unwavering calm. The cafeteria erupted, not with laughter, but with a bewildered, excited roar of whispers. Students grabbed their bags, adrenaline coursing through their veins. This was no longer just a schoolyard prank. This was a public reckoning. The stakes were impossibly high. Ronnie had pushed too far, and Anya, the quiet girl who had sworn off fighting, had just stepped onto the stage for the final act. Anya walked out of the cafeteria, the buzz of the crowd like a distant hum now. Her heart was steady. Her father's words echoed in her mind. "You don't start the fight, Anya, but you have to be the one to end it." She was no longer running. She was walking towards it, ready to demonstrate what true strength truly meant. The journey to the old mill grounds had begun, and with it, the quiet revolution of Willow Creek High. The air at the old mill grounds was thick with anticipation. Hundreds of Willow Creek students had gathered, their faces a mixture of morbid curiosity and wide-eyed excitement. The sun was dipping below the horizon, casting long, dramatic shadows across the crumbling stone walls of the old mill. This wasn't just a challenge, it was an event, a public spectacle years in the making. Then she arrived. Ronnie Cross, flanked by Chloe and Ethan, swaggered in, a triumphant sneer plastered on her face. She walked with an air of absolute certainty, expecting the easy win she'd always known. Her eyes, sharp and predatory, immediately found Anya. Well. Ronnie's voice cut through the buzzing crowd, amplified by the natural acoustics of the old mill. The little new girl actually showed up, ready to finally admit you're nothing, Anya? Ready to run back to wherever you came from? She even dared to sneer. Or maybe you just need a reminder of what happens when you try to stand up to someone with actual power, like you did with your little accident back in Autumn Falls. Anya stood still, rooted to the ground. Her expression was calm, unwavering. Ronnie's words, designed to trigger the past, merely bounced off the shield of Anya's renewed resolve. This wasn't anger she felt. It was a quiet, almost serene determination. Her father's words echoed in her mind. Not to hurt, but to end harm. Compassionate force. Ethan, sensing Ronnie's rising impatience, lunged first. He was bigger, stronger, a solid wall of muscle, fueled by a decade of being Ronnie's enforcer. He threw a wide, heavy punch, aiming for Anya's face. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath. But Anya wasn't there. In a blur of motion, fluid and almost impossibly fast, she moved. Not backward, not away, but with the punch. She didn't block it with brute force. She redirected Ethan's momentum, her hand a whisper against his arm. She spun with him, a dance of controlled precision, and then, with a subtle shift of her weight, applied a pressure point, a gentle, precise manipulation of his balance. Ethan, bewildered, found himself suddenly twisting, his own powerful swing carrying him off. He stumbled, then collapsed to the ground, disoriented and immobile, but completely unharmed. The crowd was utterly silent, mouths agape. They expected a brawl. They got ballet. Ronnie's eyes widened, a flicker of genuine shock in them. Her enforcer, taken down with such ease? It shattered her confidence, if only for a second. "Ethan, get up, you idiot!" she shrieked, her perfect facade cracking. Then, fueled by desperation and a raw surge of rage, she lunged at Anya herself. This wasn't strategy. It was a desperate, unthinking attack, a chaotic flurry of angry swings. Anya met her. She didn't retaliate with a punch or a kick. Her movements were defensive, deflecting, redirecting. She weaved through Ronnie's wild attacks, a ghost in the storm. And then, with one final precise move, she caught Ronnie's arm, twisting it just enough to disarm her, to render her powerless, without inflicting any pain. She brought Ronnie to her knees, one arm gently but firmly held in a control lock. Utterly helpless, her face a mask of shock, humiliation, and dawning fear. The crowd stood in stunned silence. Not a cheer, not a laugh, just a collective, profound realization. Anya hadn't fought. She had controlled. She had demonstrated a level of power they had never witnessed, a strength so complete it didn't need to hurt. Anya leaned in close to Ronnie, her voice a calm whisper, audible only to her. "Your power was always an illusion, Ronnie. It ends now." Ronnie's eyes, wide with raw terror, darted around, searching for a sympathetic face, a lifeline. There was none. Chloe, who had watched the entire scene, slowly, almost imperceptibly backed away, melting into the crowd. Ethan, still dazed on the ground, remained there. Ronnie was utterly, completely alone. The realization hit Ronnie like a physical blow. Her power, built on fear and manipulation, had evaporated the moment someone truly challenged it with authenticity. She tried one last, pathetic lunge, a desperate, animalistic lunge at Anya. Anya effortlessly caught her, holding her suspended, powerless, in a position of complete vulnerability. And then Anya whispered the final, most devastating truth, not with anger, but with an almost sorrowful clarity. You never truly controlled anyone, Ronnie, only their fear. And that fear is gone. Anya then gently, compassionately released Ronnie, allowing her to stumble backward, her face crumbling into raw public tears. There was no triumph in Anya's eyes, only a quiet, resolute calm. She had ended it. The next few days at Willow Creek High were unlike anything anyone had ever witnessed. The atmosphere was different. The heavy cloak of fear that Ronnie had draped over the school had lifted, replaced by a strange, almost fragile sense of peace. Ronnie Cross, once the undisputed queen, was now an outcast. Her table in the cafeteria was empty. Her loyal followers, Chloe and Ethan, avoided her gaze, disappearing into other cliques. She experienced the very isolation she had inflicted, the bitter taste of her own medicine. Anya Petrova, on the other hand, was met with a new kind of respect, not the fearful deference Ronnie commanded, but a quiet, almost reverent awe. Students would nod, offer genuine smiles, and even sometimes try to strike up conversations. But Anya didn't seek the spotlight. She didn't want to be the new queen. She continued to be herself, quiet, focused, kind. Her actions became a legend, a whispered story of how true strength wasn't about dominance, but about self-mastery and integrity. She was a living example that one person's courage could change an entire environment. Other students, inspired by her quiet bravery, started finding their own voices, standing up to smaller injustices, offering kindness where there had once been apathy. And then came the moment that truly defined Anya's victory, a twist no one expected, not even Ronnie. A few days later, Anya walked into the cafeteria and saw Ronnie sitting alone at her usual table, her head down, utterly defeated. She looked small, broken, and isolated. The very picture of the pain she had inflicted on so many others. Anya took her tray, and instead of walking past, instead of savoring her newfound freedom, she walked straight to Ronnie's table. The cafeteria, once again, fell silent. She gently placed her tray down across from Ronnie. Ronnie's head snapped up, her eyes wide, with a mixture of fear and bewilderment. Was this it? Was Anya going to rub it in? To finish her off? Anya looked at her, not with anger, not with triumph, but with a quiet, profound understanding. "It's over, Ronnie," Anya said, her voice soft, clear, and without a hint of malice. "The fight is over. I hope you find your way forward." And then Anya simply began to eat her lunch. That act of quiet compassion, of choosing to break the cycle of aggression, resonated far deeper than any final blow. It was the ultimate demonstration of true strength, not just the strength to fight, but the strength to forgive, to release, and to offer a path forward, even to those who had caused you pain. It was a lesson that reverberated through Willow Creek High, a new dawn rising after a long, shadowed night. This story, the story of Anya Petrova and Ronnie Cross, isn't just about a high school bully. It's a story about true strength. It reminds us that real power isn't about making others afraid. It's about mastering yourself. It's not about winning every fight, but about choosing your battles, standing firm in your integrity, and having the courage to protect your peace. Anya's journey shows us that healing from trauma is possible, and that even in the darkest moments, you have the inner strength to overcome adversity. What does true strength mean to you? And how will you choose to use it to light your own path forward and perhaps even to help others find theirs?